Hey, and good Monday morning, everybody. How you guys doing here on your August the 11th? Welcome to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel here for the Weather Report, your no-nonsense, straightforward report. We don't give you all that stupid social media hype. We give you the facts. Our motto here is real simple. Keep you prepared and not scared. And look forward to giving you this briefing this morning. Although I'm dragging a little bit, had to work at the Fox station in Atlanta over the weekend, got back like left at midnight, so I'm a little tired. And then my computer was acting up this morning too. My KVM switch went crazy. So we got in here, we're ready to do this. Now, if you're coming into this report after the fact, if you could please do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. See that little number up there? Got to get that thing moving in the right direction. And please hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you got a question or anything like that I can answer. It does help the YouTube algorithm. Give me a thumbs up too. I do appreciate that. All right, let's talk about this. Boy, here we almost got it, but we got very close. Check that out. We had almost 100-degree temperature swing there out in the west. That's amazing. 121 degrees. That was in Tekapoa. That's out in the Mojave Desert, by the way. It's in California. 121 degrees, and then Peter Sinks, which is in that higher elevation up there in Utah, at 22 degrees. So almost 100-degree swing there with the temperatures there for yesterday. Well, it was active over the weekend. We had some flooding there in the plains, really kicked up nasty there across Kansas. Into portions of Iowa, it was pretty nasty. You're getting some storms out there for this morning right now. Kind of seeing that right there. You're getting some storms here along the Gulf Coast as well. And, of course, we've been talking a lot. We're going to get into the tropics, too, by the way. Obviously, we're going to have probably our first hurricane I think we're going to get this week, but I'm not concerned about it. I'm going to explain why I'm not concerned about that one here in just a second. We'll get you into all those details here as we'll get this thing going. All right, let's look at our surface map right here. The East Coast still dealing with this persistent high pressure system. It's been kind of sitting in here on the East Coast, kind of keeping the easterly wind unseasonably cool there across the southeast. You know, in Atlanta, Georgia, for example, we haven't hit 90 degrees since, I think, August the 1st or July 31st, something like that. It's been a while. We got this little stationary boundary here that's been concentrating that rain there in the middle of the country. That has been a pain in the neck. It's got some flash flood watches and things in there. Still continue to look dry and warm out here in the west. Not looking too bad there, especially the southwest, I should say. That's where the hot weather has been kind of sticking up down there. And not looking bad. But we're going to go ahead and zoom in here on the radar mega. We're going to take a look here at some of this heavier rain here down to the south of Kansas. Looks like this is kind of moving up this way, heading up toward the Kansas City area. So again, this area is under some flash flood concerns, and we got a couple of hot pockets we're going to talk about as far as flooding for today as well as part of this update for you guys. All right, let's talk about the watches and warnings. Look at that latest here. Again, we got some heat out in the west. We got to see all these advisories out here in the west. That's going to be temporary. We're going to be beating that down, especially for the northwest. You guys are going to get a break there. There's our flooding concerns this morning. You see that in Kansas. That's where that heavy rain I just showed you is falling. And here a little bit along the coastal zones here, the Carolinas down to southeast Georgia as well. Got some heat that's going to be building up here in the northeast. That'll be increasing here for today. We were talking about that last week. The fact that we're going to get the building heat in the northeast. We're going to see that here the next day or so as well. All right, so let's talk about the tropics first. I do want to get into that first and knock that out, kind of get you guys going on that. So let me get over to the Hurricane Center update here. Here we go. All right, so our main disturbance out there right now is out here in the Atlantic, coming out near the Cape Verde Islands. And this thing's probably going to be named tropical depression or depression sometime this morning, maybe even be called Aaron. This right here is the 30th latitude in here, this little area right here. If this thing forms before that, typically what happens to these storms, they get out here and they do a big hook to hook. All right, so when they form that far out and that far north. So I don't see this thing being a factor. In fact, all the indications are from the modeling that we're going to continue to see this thing make that turn eventually. It'll continue to move around the periphery of the high pressure, the Bermuda High up there in the middle of the Atlantic, but eventually it's going to make a turn. And we've also had persistent weakness in the east, so that's that troughiness. So when we get that persistent troughiness here in the east, it means that anything coming up this way is going to be doing this thing. So it's going to deflect it out. Now, we're still got some Sahara dust out there. I thought this was very interesting. I was noticing this on this morning's loop when I was kind of getting ready for the Earl's update this morning. You notice the Sahara dust in here. It's being sucked into this low right up here. This dust is actually acting a little bit of a vacuum cleaner. It's actually pulling it into it. So that's one of those 10% zones. We got a couple of those 10% zones here. You got this one here, and you got this one over here. So we got a couple of little hot zones there, but they're only 10% visible. I'm not worried about that one. So we're watching this one. That's the one back out here in the, coming off the Cape Verde. So we're looking at that little cluster right there. And that will most likely form, Aaron, sometime later today. And when we look at the model data here, you'll see what I'm talking about. This thing's going to continue to track right along. And as that high pressure ridge to the north starts to break down a little bit, we got the ridge sitting up there to the north. We're going to continue to see it kind of make that turn there. Let me get my pin active here. I did not turn my pin on here, so let's do that. And again, you kind of see it making that turn. So we got the loop on once again. So it's going to halt right around the periphery of that high. And then when it finds that weakness, and there's the high back over here. Here's our ridge right there. It's going to find that weakness, and it's going to make that big turn. So well offshore. So it's going to probably kick off some rough seas. There are a few models that want to get it fairly close to the United States, so we can't totally discard that. But you see here toward the Outer Banks here. So, but the main cluster, you kind of take the average. Looks like it's going right down the middle there. But I'd say the risk for the East Coast right now is fairly low. Not zero, but fairly low. And we'll see if that changes much here as we go through the next several days. We've got a long time to watch this. I do suspect this will probably be a major hurricane. It's pretty hot, pretty warm waters out there to deal with. The environment looks pretty conducive. So I do suspect by the time we get to the end of the week, we should have a major hurricane at that point. But I do believe this thing's going to stay offshore. That's the good news on that one. Now, we do have a couple of systems out in the Pacific, but I'm not worried about this. Henrietta did become a hurricane north of the Hawaiian Islands. Don't worry about that. It's heading out to colder water. And Ivo fizzled out. It's also moved over colder water, so we're not worried about those areas for today. All right, now let's talk about the weather here back closer to home. Let's look at the weather here as far as where we expect our thunderstorms are going to be, where our potential flooding is going to be here for today. Let's get over the right map. There we go. And we got a couple of hot spots, and no real levels of severe weather, like slight risk to enhance or anything like that. Now, you can always get that updated. You know, Storm Prediction Center may upgrade something there. But right now, I'm not seeing that. So we got a couple of little hot spots up here across areas of the Dakotas and Minnesota, and down here toward New Mexico and into Texas. Those are our two little hot spots here for today. And really, we're going to continue that to marginal risk. I mean, a lot of the country is seeing just a general thunderstorm threat. We got a little here across the Great Lakes coming to Wisconsin and Michigan going into tomorrow, going into Tuesday. And then your day 3, looks like we're back out here in the plains again, going out here towards South Dakota, North Dakota once again. But as far as the thunderstorm threat, not that bad. But with those thunderstorms, and boy, this has got to be the summer of the flood, because again, we had flooding in New Mexico, we had flooding up in Milwaukee over the weekend, we had flooding along the coast, we got flooding concerns across the south. It's definitely just one of those days. And when you look at the excessive rainfall forecast here for today, we'll go to day 1 here. We got 3 hot spots we're kind of watching here. So I'm going to zoom in on all these. These are the yellow risks here. So we're talking Joplin down to Oklahoma City, down here toward Lubbock, Texas. So this is our zone 1 here for potential for some isolated flooding. Obviously, Kansas is getting the heavy rains here for this morning. Along the Gulf Coast, Pensacola over toward Panama City, Apalachicola, could see some heavy rains down here as well, some localized flooding, some heavy rainfall amounts there. And then we also got the watches up here along the Carolina coast, coming down there, Charleston, up to Wilmington and Beaufort there up into North Carolina. So right there along the East Coast. So those are our hot zones here for today. Now, once we get past today, and of course, this is also subject to change, obviously, we're going to look at marginal risk from here on out. The middle of the country with that frontal system that's kind of slowly pushing off toward the east. The southeast includes Atlanta, Birmingham, Mobile, getting some in there for tomorrow, the high rain risk, and then a little bit of the monsoon out there toward Arizona and New Mexico. And then by Wednesday, we're going to stretch it into the northeast and up there from Maine, stretching all the way down to Pennsylvania and into the southeast in here. Now, with this frontal system coming in, I wish I had better news that we're still dealing with air quality issues out there. I do want to show that quickly. You guys in the Northeast have really been dealing with it really bad, and it continues to be a problem across the Great Lakes as those fires continue to burn up into Canada and continues to bring some problems. So I want to show you the latest loop here on this. This is the high resolution model here. Get this thing moving here for you. I'm going to speed that up for you a little bit. And you can still see these plumes continue to pull it out of Canada. It's just going like this. We got some hot spots out here in the west. You can see those fires out here burning, but we're going to continue to bring in the bad air quality will be a problem. It was a problem over the weekend, Probably going to be a problem again later this week. So I don't have much in the way of relief for you guys. A little bit of rain, maybe, as we saw with the rain moving on. That'll help give the atmosphere a little bit of a bath. But behind that front, we'll bring in some more smoke again, unfortunately, until we can get those fires dealt with up in Canada. This is going to continue to be a problem. All right, let's go and check out our model data here. We're going to look at our first thing we're going to look at. We're going to look at here is our short-term model data here. Let's go over to the right map. Here we go. So we're going to be looking at here, this is the 3-kilometer NAM. And the one thing I did notice here is we got that system that's pushing off toward the east. So we got one storm system here going this way, kind of moving this way. We got some moisture here across the southeast building. You see these clusters of storms out here across Oklahoma. And those are areas here going straight into your Wednesday. Now, I keep that timestamp. That's just your timestamp right up there. There's your little reference there. So that's what we're looking at. Get these clusters of storms here. Again, it's coming down into the southeast, and we get some more rains across Alabama, Georgia, picking up here for the next few days. Good news for you guys in the southeast. You should dry out as you head to the weekend. The weekend's looking a lot better. Now, one thing we're going to see, if that thing comes out of a hurricane and it clears up the eastern seaboard, what typically happens is you get a trough in the east. So as that thing goes up the eastern seaboard, we'll cool things off and clear things out across the east going into early next week. So I do suspect we'll get a little bit of a pattern change once that goes by. So we'll see what happens with that as that system clears on out. All right, so let's look at your rainfall. Again, we've had excessive rain there in the middle of the country. That has been a problem there across Kansas. We're going to continue to have that problem here for today across Missouri, Oklahoma. You see the higher rain chances in here. And that'll continue. Again, this continues right through Wednesday. Southeast, again, the Florida Panhandle. We saw the heavy rain there. Kind of a tropical wave being influenced, giving the heavy rains there as well. North Georgia, you'll see some heavy rains as well. As we go into this area, looking up 2.5 inches, possibly some heavy rains here going in toward tomorrow. Looks like mostly tomorrow and into Wednesday for that particular event. And then as we look up toward the northeast, wish I had some better. Got a little rain coming in here, but not a lot. Again, we can't clear out our atmosphere a little bit. They've got some decent rains here across the Great Lakes, Minnesota, going through Wednesday as well. So you're always looking for some widespread rains to help deal with the smoke, and we're just not going to see a lot of it. I think it's going to be a little bit too localized, unfortunately, for you guys up there in the northeast. All right, temperature-wise, let's go through this. We're going to go through, again, not bad. We're still heat. Looking to get some 90s up here in Maine. We were talking about that last week. 90s across the southeast. It is unsettled across the eastern seaboard. You got a lot of these temperatures here. 2 o'clock on your Monday, you're looking at 74 degrees. It's pretty mild here. So again, let's take you into tomorrow. I'll take you into Tuesday. Look at your Tuesday afternoon temperatures here. And looks like more of the same. So again, still kind of warm, upper 80s here in the northeast. You got 90s here across Florida, down here deep south. The high plains not bad behind that front, 77, 74, 78. Hot in the west. A lot of purple on this map. So you got upper 90s going into Washington State. Interior California is baking with 105. The Southwest, of course, is hot, but not that excessive heat that we were dealing with last week when we were cracking 118 pretty widespread. It looks like they should be pretty much contained to the Mojave Desert, I believe, here for tomorrow. And then taking this all the way out towards your Wednesday afternoon, we'll go out to your Wednesday afternoon highs again. The northeast comes down just a little bit. That cool air kind of moves out here out of the plains and into the Great Lakes. But we start to heat up again, seeing the purple out here across Montana and into South Dakota. You see some 90s back out here again, and it's still hot across the areas of the Southwest. But not overly bad, not like that excessive heat we were dealing with just a little, a week or so ago across the middle of the country. So we're looking a little bit better there. All right, so let's look at the big pattern, the big flow here. The European, you're going to notice that, see that particular hurricane making a turn out the coast? See that trophiness coming in behind it? That's probably what happens. It kind of reminds me of, it's kind of interesting. If this is Aaron, it's a hurricane. I saw this historically. There was an Aaron on September 11th. And the reason why the Northeast was all cleared out, it was clear and blue and looked like a beautiful, was because we had a hurricane off the eastern seaboard and had a big trough in the east. And this kind of reminds me of that because it's very, very parallel. It's kind of interesting. So as we get this thing going up the eastern seaboard, we'll have a trough in its wake behind it, and it should clear out. So it should set up for a pretty decent weather, I think, usually when a hurricane clears out and we get a buckle in the jet stream like that. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is this thing moves up to the north. That's assuming it makes that turn and goes up toward the north. Now, if it doesn't, and then we're talking about a different scenario altogether. But that's what I'm leaning toward. That's my forecast probability for that right now. Let's go look at your look at the model again. Here's that model. This is a 7-day run. I usually don't go beyond that, but you see the unsettledness here across the east, and it's because of this unsettledness in the east that this trough's going to get picked up. The storm's going to get picked up in the first place. We've been having this persistent troughiness in the east. That's why it's been so unusually cool across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. That's been sticking there, and I suspect it's not going anywhere. That Bermuda high has not been overly strong this year. When it is, you typically get it into the south. You get baking heat that just kind of sits there, and I don't see that's going to happen. We had that heat dome earlier, but it wasn't the Bermuda high per se. We just have, it hasn't been strong this year, and as a result of that, that means that persistent troughiness is going to stay there. So going to remain unsettled in the east, in the middle of the country over the next 7 days. The west is still going to stay on the dry side over going into next Monday. All right, that's what we're seeing there. As far as where the heavy rains are going to fall, the southeast, obviously, where the storm track's the most active, up here toward the north. We'll see that across Minnesota, the Great Lakes, back toward Missouri, and obviously Kansas, where they're getting heavy rains now. Not a whole lot of rain in the northeast. I wish I had some better news for you guys up there. You get a little bit, but not a lot. And we're still staying pretty much hot and dry in the south, in the southwest. Also noticing a little more monsoon out here. Seeing a little more moisture getting up in here as well, as that kicks up here over the next week. All right, let's look at the temperature here. Let's take it forward the rest of the week here. Let's go forward here. We already did through Wednesday, so let's take this forward here to your Thursday afternoon here. Let's go into your Thursday here afternoon. Look at this heat here in the middle of the country. Wow, we're talking some extreme heat here. 107, 102, 103. So we got some big time heat coming in here as that frontal system finally clears out. We're going to heat up in the middle of the country. The northeast is going to cool down. All right, you see some upper 70s and stuff in here. So the heat you got here for today or tomorrow, we will cool that down. Coming here into the southeast is also going to warm up here. We've gone about, it's been a long time since we hit above 90 degrees in Atlanta. I haven't done that since July 31st, I believe. And I think we may do that here later this week, Thursday or Friday, the way it's looking right now. And then as we go into your Friday afternoon, we'll go Friday again, look at this extreme heat here in the middle of the country. Look at Nebraska, 104. Kansas 104, Oklahoma 103, so very hot there in the middle of the country with this big heat dome here kind of forming in there. It's going to be temperatures well above normal there. And then as we go into this upcoming weekend, going to your Saturday afternoon, again, the heat's just sitting there, and it starts to heat up here in the east. And that purple starts returning here to the northeast once again. So you're going to get the heat today, a little bit of a break, and then the heat comes back into the northeast, mid-Atlantic, and even the southeast starts to warm up a bit going into this upcoming Saturday. How about Sunday? Sunday, again, looking at the heat across the mid-Atlantic, middle of the country. So it looks like a lot of the country is going to really start to heat up here as we go in through this next 7 days. Now, once that hurricane goes by, I think we'll start seeing the changes. Now, I don't usually go beyond the 7-day, but I do want to show you this. There's the hot weather there on Monday. I think it was on the tail end of this thing. Watch what happens here when I go out to Tuesday. You see this cool air up here? We're gonna sink this down here, and I think if we go all the way out here a little bit, yeah, look at this. See that? That's a very cool air there. Again, that's all dependent on the hurricane making the turn and going on out to sea. If this holds true, we'll bring down a cool shot that'll come down on the back side of that storm, and we'll cool things off here in the east as we go in toward the end of next week. See, look at that. Wow, look at that 70s. Look at that. See that? Yeah. So that's something to look forward to. Still holding on here across the southeast, but we got plenty of time to look at. But if this thing does make that turn, we'll see a nice little big cool down here in the east and the wake as we kind of dislodge some cool air out of Canada as that storm clears off the eastern seaboard. So something to look forward to. I'd like to be on a positive note there for today. So let's look at your climate outlook here. I doubt this has been updated here just yet. This may come a little bit later. Again, it's all dependent on that track of that hurricane. So I do suspect we're going to see this climate outlook change. Now, the 6 to 10 day, that's pretty much locked in. We know we're going to get that. We're kind of a little bit below out here in the west, seeing out here, and we're just HOT. We already see how hot it's going to be there in the middle of the country and in the northeast going out from the 16th to the 20th. Where I suspect we're going to see changes is going to be on this map here. Still showing it warm. It kind of backs off a little bit of heat, but not a lot. It all depends on what that hurricane track does, but if it does, I do suspect this one will turn substantially cooler as we should see a cool shot coming down here. So if that happens, this part will change, and then we got the heat building up out here in the west. So typically we get the trough, we get warming up out in the west, will cool off here in the east. So I do suspect that this map, maybe as soon as today, they may give it another day or so, just make sure it's going to make that turn. But I think it's a very good likelihood there. 6 to 10 day outlook here, precipitation-wise, looks like most of the country pretty much near average or a little bit above. Just got one little dry pocket out there in the west. That's, again, going out from the 16th to the 20th. And then going out here from the 18th to the 24th, see a little bit drier out here in the west. So a little dry here, a little dry here across the Great Lakes, and then a little wet here across the southeast. So anyway, you can what's interesting to me, I love when we talk about weather, when we talk about the tropics and things going, even if you're not getting a direct hit by the storm, you can still see how the hurricane can overall change the weather pattern. So if we get a hurricane, and we get a good one, and it decides to make that turn, going up this way, and it's going to change the weather pattern across the eastern third of the United States. So even though we're not expecting a landfall at this time, and I still think it's probably going to stay offshore for right now, unless we get a change in the models, which is always a possibility. But I'm just going on history, climatologically, what latitude it's at, and the fact it's forming that early. Historically speaking, they typically make the turn. So we'll see if the models hold true with that, and that's what the conglomerate of the models is showing for right now. Hey, I wanted to give you all an update. One thing I do want to start, if we do get Aaron to form, what I'm probably going to do, they obviously got the weather report here. This is kind of all-encompassing. And then I'll probably do another live, maybe like 5-ish or 5:30-ish after the Hurricane Center does their 5 o'clock updates, where I will do a hurricane-specific one at 5 o'clock. So I might start that today. Definitely will tomorrow. I got some family coming up today, but I want to start doing the 2-a-days there where I'm doing the weather report in the morning, Hurricane Central in the afternoon. And by the way, if you are a member on this channel, I did post a little preview of what that looks like, basically showing it's a similar design to this one, just it's Hurricane Central's branded differently, the information's differently, and I'm also kind of showing you what my template is for 2 people doing wall-to-wall coverage. So if you are a member out there and you're already a paid member, go check that out. I do have that out there for you guys to look at. All right, that's y'all's update for today. You guys take it easy. I do appreciate you guys being a subscriber here on the Weather Nerds channel. And again, as always, if you have a weather-related question, please post it down below and give me a thumbs up. I do thank you very much. You guys have a good day. I'm dragging a little bit today. I'm tired, but we'll get through it. We'll be a little bit better tomorrow. You guys take it easy. We'll talk.